Hi, I'm Kevin Hatley and welcome to Kevin Hatley Photography in my office. This is a channel that I've set up to share my experiences of wildlife and nature with others. So let's go. In this video, which is a project that I've been working on for a little while now, I want to share with you how I go about photographing hares in the countryside.
Okay, first tip, or tip number 5 in how to photograph hares is research. It's really important that you try and find out as much information as you can on hares before you go out to watch them. YouTube's a great place, but I would recommend this book from the RSPB by Nancy Jennings, and there's also information leaflet that you can get from the Mammal Society, which is called Mammals with Paws. I think it's very important that we understand the difference between hares and rabbits. Hares are difficult enough to see or to spot, and in this picture here, the hare is actually situated in the centre of the picture on the skyline in the hedgerow, and the only way that I know it's a hare is because of the size and the shapes of its ears. So it's important that we understand the difference between hares and rabbits. Hares are generally solitary, keep to themselves. They only really come together when they're mating. They're brown. They're a lot larger than a rabbit. They've got black tips to their ears which stick out, and generally they live above ground. Whereas the rabbit is a more sociable animal. It's smaller. It's grey in colour. The ears are obviously smaller, and they live in burrows. Hares eat mainly grasses and herbs, but they'll also eat cereal crops, buds, twigs, and the bark off trees as well.
This is the ground or the land that I've got permission to go onto, farmers' fields. It's kind of mixed arable farmland. Approximately there are 6 fields. They're all about 250 square metres each. So we've got this one here which is been cultivated. It's grown seed. I've seen hares in here. So in the foreground it's pretty much shaded, and the ground then rises up to the top where there is a hedge line. That's the hedge line here. And there's another field on the back of that which has been cultivated, and the hares normally, first indication I'll get is I'll see movement up on this hedgerow on the skyline. They'll silhouette themselves as they come through the gaps. Has a hedgerow which runs up and down the hill. Again, it's about 250 metres long, this. And this is the hedgerow where I'll be lying up. I'll get myself a little hide in here somewhere and hopefully get a bit closer to the hares. One thing to note about hares is they can sometimes leave trails in the field. Now this is a cultivated field. It's growing a crop at the moment, which will obviously grow longer. So what happens is that the hares will come up over the top of this hill onto the skyline, and then you can just see in the middle here the faint line running down the centre of the screen. I'll put a picture up as well to show it if it's not as clear on video. Now what will happen is that once the crop grows in height, this will be a pathway that the hares will use, and what I've actually done is this pathway leads down the field to the hedgerow. Now where you see the tree in the middle, slightly down from that, the path then goes through the hedge, and I've set up my hide for taking still pictures just below that, because that's a common path that the hares will follow. Okay, tip number 4, how to photograph hares, is recce. We had a saying when I was in the army, which was time spent on reconnaissance is seldom wasted. I think it's very important that where you think hares are, or you know where hares are, that you carry out a recce so that you fully understand the picture of the ground. It's important to note where the sun rises and where the sun sets, because hares are crepuscular, which means that they're more active at dawn and at dusk. So it's important to know where the sun is, and at the same time know the ground, landmarks, where you can set up hides so that you can get closer to the hares to take pictures. So tip number 4 is recce. That's my view from my hide. I'm sat in my little pop-up hide here. and scanned the ground, and I found this here, just lying on the ground, resting. And here we have 2 hares just feeding away. I originally thought there was just one there, but it turns out there's 2. That's how well hidden they can be. Once they get low to the ground, they stay really low to the ground.
Okay, tip number 3, how to photograph hares. Dress for the occasion. What do I mean by that? Well, you don't need to dress like a SAS sniper, but I strongly suggest that any clothing you do wear is drab in colour, so blacks, browns, greens, all in drab colours. It does make a difference. If there's one photograph that defines hares, it's boxing hares. It's considered as the holy grail when it comes to photographing hares. How do you do that? Well, the only way you're going to do it is to actually be there on the ground when they're there doing it. And you get into a good enough position and they can't see you. So that's why it's important to dress appropriately. How to photograph hares, tip number 2, is all about you, the photographer, and how you imprint or your human footprint into the hare's environment. It really is about being able to see and not being seen when it comes to photographing hares. And to do that, we need to look at things like shape, sound, scent, silhouette, shadow, and shine. How we can disguise those in the hare's environment. And I'll be doing a separate video on fieldcraft skills in the future. When it comes to camera settings, we're really dealing with 2 scenarios. The hare's either going to be stationary, sitting or lying down, or it's going to be moving. For hares that are stationary, I would have a minimum of 250th of a second shutter speed. I would make sure that my camera was supported, normally on a beanbag, because I'll be low down to the ground. Your aperture will all depend on the light conditions, but I normally aim for about f8, and I always use auto ISO. And I should have said at the start that I always shoot in manual. Then we need to look at hares that are moving. Here you're looking at a minimum shutter speed of about 500th of a second. Hares can run up to about 45 miles an hour. They're quite speedy across open ground. Again, aperture about f8, and as I shoot in manual, I always leave it in auto ISO. So they're the 2 camera settings that I would recommend for photographing hares. How to photograph hares, tip number 1. It's all about patience and perseverance. I can't emphasize enough how much you've just got to stick at it. If you find a good place where there are hares, just keep going back again and again and again until you get the pictures that you're after. It really is the number 1 tip: patience and perseverance. And what I'll do finally is I'll leave you with this Japanese quote and my thoughts on it, and it's so true.
Okay, thanks for watching this edition of Kevin Hatley Photography and How to Photograph Hares. I hope you've enjoyed it. Just to summarise the top 5 tips. At number 5, research, get to know your subject. Number 4 is to do a recce, get to know the ground that the hares are living on and where the good points are to get your photographs from. Number 3, dress appropriately. As I said, you don't need to dress like a SAS sniper. Drab clothing is good enough. At number 2, remember the human footprint. That's the signs that you give off in the hare's environment that they can pick up on. And at number 1, can't overemphasize it enough, patience and perseverance. Keep at it and I'm sure you'll be rewarded. So as I said, thanks for watching. All I would ask is that if you've liked this video, could you hit the like button? If you'd like to see more like this, could I ask you to subscribe to my channel? It doesn't cost anything, it just gives me that incentive to keep going out into the countryside and do what I love doing best. So until the next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.